Thank you guys all for coming. This is our final session for the Citizen Science Program and Miami Waterkeeper to have our Ambassador Series, our 3 sessions. Today we're going to have talk about environmental stakeholders, and we have all of our partners that we have with our EPA grant that's about environmental education to talk about their programs and why they're important and why they do what they do and how we all work together. You'll notice on the chairs there is an agenda that's showing you the order of the presentations. There's also a survey for today's lecture. As you may remember, we talked about giving away gifts at the end of the survey. Originally we said if you come to all 3 sessions, but I know a lot of people weren't able to come to all 3, so if you just fill out your survey and you give it to me, then you'll get your bag. And if you don't mind turning off your cell phones, if you have one turned on, and we'll get started. Start out with Kelly from Miami Waterkeeper.
Welcome everybody to the 3rd part of this series, our Ambassador Series with the Biscayne Community Foundation and the Citizen Science Program. I'm Kelly, I'm with Miami Waterkeeper, I'm the Staff Attorney and Program Director. I get to keep my comments a little brief today, which is great. I'm going to give you an overview of the work that we're doing at Waterkeeper and ways that you can get involved in some of our ongoing campaigns and initiatives, including upcoming events, which is very exciting. So let's go ahead and get started. For those of you who came to the earlier trainings, you might know that we are part of what's called the Greater Waterkeeper Alliance. And the Waterkeeper Alliance is a conglomerate of more than 300 organizations worldwide that are all working on the same mission to achieve swimmable, drinkable, fishable water for their respective watersheds. So we cover over 44 countries and we protect collectively more than 2.5 million square acres of watershed. It's pretty impressive. Your Waterkeeper is an investigator, a scientist, an educator, an advocate. We are the spokesperson for Biscayne Bay, and we are working to defend your right to clean water here in South Florida. So our mission, as I mentioned, is we use citizen engagement and community action to ensure swimmable, drinkable, fishable water for everyone. And that language might sound a little funny, but it's something that comes directly from the Clean Water Act itself. So those are rights that everyone here in this room is entitled to under the Clean Water Act. And we're doing everything we can to make sure that your water is safe enough to swim in, safe enough to drink, and safe enough to fish in. So we operate in South Florida, as I mentioned. We're all the way up in Broward County and down through the southern half of Miami-Dade County. And we actually just extended our jurisdiction to include parts of Monroe County and all the way out to our reef tract, which is about 3 miles out offshore. So how do we do what we do? Well, we use community education and outreach, scientific research, and legal advocacy to achieve protected marine ecosystems, clean water, and a sea level rise ready South Florida. We've had some success in doing this. Our Waterkeeper, Rachel Silverstein, my lovely boss, has been recognized as one of the South Florida's top environmentalists. She's received multiple awards and recognition for her achievements in her efforts for being an advocate for South Florida and Biscayne Bay. And there she is. What a lovely feature. We also like to do a lot of outreach with the press at Miami Waterkeeper to educate our community and reach a broader audience. We've been featured in a number of articles from the New York Times, The Guardian, National Geographic, and all the way down to our local WLRN and Miami Herald. We've had a lot of events and we do a lot of community outreach. As I mentioned, we do beach cleanups, we have festivals for the water, we do sustainable dinners and many, many more events where we try to get people out there and engaged in various different audiences and venues, raising awareness about our issues. So let's talk about what we've done in the past year. Just a few things. This is a sneak peek of our annual report that's coming out soon. But this is sort of a map of areas where we've been working. We've been working on issues related to the coral reef tract, related to styrofoam and marine debris. We've focused on water quality issues, recovery after Hurricane Irma, sewage leaks, elected official outreach, scientific research, dredging, nuclear power, and many, many more. And here's some of the things that we've done over the past year. So we've had more than 2,500 pounds of trash that we've collected from our shorelines. We've been supported by more than 300 different volunteers. We've submitted 12 public policy comments and substantive technical letters to administrative agencies. We've worked more than 2,300 hours on our legal actions in the past year. We've done a lot of outreach events, 24, and we're only staffed by 3 people at the time in 2017. And we've graduated our 17 junior ambassadors, which is our high school environmental education program, among the other things that we've done. But we have a lot more work to do at Miami Waterkeeper. Some of our priority issues for 2018 include things like coral reef protection. So working still on our Port Miami dredging issues, and additionally on Port Everglades, which is slated to be dredged in 2020. We're working on Florida Power and Light's Turkey Point nuclear power plant down south in Homestead, and that plant is still leaking contaminated water into the bay and the aquifer, and we just actually submitted a petition to intervene in a nuclear relicensing proceeding related to the viability of units 3 and 4 over the next few decades. We're still working on sewage spills and polluted runoff. We're still working on sustainable wastewater reuse, sea level rise and flooding, and pollution response in stormwater enforcement. So some of our ongoing campaigns, as I mentioned, we're asking for better protections for our coral reefs, and we're doing that in Port Everglades. Right now, we're waiting for the final Port Everglades environmental documents to come out, where the Army Corps, due to our litigation, had to go back and reanalyze environmental impacts from that project. So up there in Fort Lauderdale, we're making sure that our reefs have the best protection possible in the face of that dredging project, which is to come. As you guys know, last summer we had a sewage leak just off the coast here of Key Biscayne. We're still working on sewage leak issues and making sure that the temporary plug that they had for this sewage leak off of the Key turns into a permanent fix. So we're holding the county accountable and making sure that they do that. We're constantly doing records requests and following up with county officials to ensure that our waters are protected from these sewage leaks, which are often caused by decaying infrastructure due to corrosion and exposure from the salt water. This is a photo of FPL's Turkey Point nuclear power plant, and again, as I mentioned, we're working on a relicensing proceeding. We're challenging whether or not it's viable by 2052 that these plants are still operating. By that time, they will not only be the hottest operating reactors in the country, but they will be the oldest operating reactors in the country, and that's cause for concern. We particularly feel that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, by giving a license to FPL, when FPL isn't considering the existing contamination problems at Turkey Point, and also isn't considering sea level rise and storm surge impacts, is not really prudent at this time. We're working on a sea level rise ready Miami. We're advocating for green infrastructure, natural shorelines, our mangroves, our seagrasses, our coral reefs. We're working to make sure that the flooding that happens in the interior that eventually flows out into Biscayne Bay is properly overseen by the regulatory agencies, that folks have their Clean Water Act permits if they're going to be discharging stormwater into the bay. And all of that ties into whether or not we're sea level rise ready and whether or not this beautiful city by the bay that we call home is ready for the next generation of issues. And we have a lot of programs too. One of our key programs is our Junior Ambassador Program, which I encourage you to share with the students in your lives. We do a high school leadership program. We teach the students about environmental issues in their community and their backyard, and we give them the tools that they need to address those issues. So if they see marine debris on the beach, how do they solve that problem? How do they contact their elected officials? How do they develop a communication and outreach campaign to adequately address those issues? So this is a free program that we offer. It runs from September to June. Our applications are actually open right now. So if you know a high school student in your community or a teacher in your community that works with high school students or a soccer coach or anything, be sure to share with them this information. You don't have to be an environmental zealot to participate. This is a really great introductory program to our issues. The students get community service hours for the work that they do, and it's a great way for them to get involved and out on the water. And speaking of ways to volunteer, we have a lot of ways for our volunteers to get involved too. Coming up in September, we've got our International Coastal Cleanup. We'll be cleaning up the Miami Marine Stadium site just on Virginia Key, which we actually cleaned up recently with Fort Ocean, but there's a lot of work left to be done. A lot of debris accumulates in that basin, and it's really critical that we have folks out there helping the city to address these marine debris issues. Another great program that we're currently running is our Citizen Science Program. So for those of you who are scuba divers, we have a great opportunity coming up. As I mentioned, we are doing some ongoing supervision of the Port Everglades dredging project. And one of the ways that we're doing that is by getting citizens involved and engaged in these issues. So we're going to be going out and we're going to be taking citizen divers and teaching them the very basics of scientific diving. We're going to go out, lay some transects, collect some baseline data, document which sort of species are in the area, are there protected species in the area that we should be concerned about. And then we'll take all that information after a BioBlitz day and we'll submit it to the Army Corps of Engineers so that they know what species are on the benthos and what they should really be concerned about. That information is online on our website, but it's going to be happening on September 8th. If you are a scuba diver, I encourage you to come out. One of our primary events throughout the year is Bay Day. This year it's Saturday, October 20th. We host it with one of our partners, Shake a Leg in Coconut Grove. I again encourage you all to come out. It's a wonderful day. We'll take you out sailing. We have boat tours. We have kayaking and swimming. It's just generally a celebration of Biscayne Bay. It's something that we do to get the community together and rallying around this wonderful resource in our backyard, remembering why it's so important to protect it. So this is one of our key outreach programs we run every single year. Another great program that we have is our internship program. So if you're familiar with a college student or graduate student who's looking for some practical experience, we are a nonprofit, so we can use all the volunteer interns that we can get. We have a lot of great experiences. We actually have one of our interns back there, Monique, from the University of Miami. We accept students from Berry and FIU and everywhere around South Florida, of course, in the country if they want to fly in. And our interns get really great practical hands-on experience working with the community, leading volunteer events, doing research and writing for us, among a variety of other different tasks. We're also in the process of launching our water quality program. So Miami Waterkeeper has noticed that there's actually a few gaps in water quality monitoring in South Florida. So the state of Florida runs the Florida Healthy Beaches program, where the state goes out and they pull water quality samples from our beaches. And right now we've been uploading those water quality samples to an app that we have called Swim Guide. It's a free app. I encourage you all to check it out. It's a stoplight system, so green means go for swimming, red means no for swimming, and that data is uploaded. However, we've noticed that there are people recreating in Biscayne Bay in areas that are not currently monitored by the Florida Healthy Beaches program. So what we're doing is trying to fill those gaps with our water quality monitoring program. So we're going to be pulling samples from areas in the bay, especially for sewage indicator bacteria, to make sure that the public is aware if the water that they're swimming in or recreating in is actually contaminated. And this is something that we feel the public has a right to know, and we're trying to make this information free and accessible so that this community is aware of the condition of the water body in their backyard. We're also on the verge of launching a very exciting new program called our Water Patrol program. We feel very strongly about the value of empowering citizens to protect their own watershed. And so what this program is, it will be a free program where we train folks on how to identify hazards and pollution incidences on the water. So if you're a boater, if you're a kayaker, if you're just a pedestrian that likes to walk along the beach, we encourage you to check out this program when it's formally launched. As I mentioned, the trainings are free and you'll be fully equipped to monitor the condition of your beaches and your waterways, and then be empowered to report pollution or concerns or hazards that you might have to Miami Waterkeeper, and we'll notify the authorities, or maybe we'll take legal action. We think it's going to be a great program, and is really an exciting new development for Miami Waterkeeper. And of course, there are a myriad of other ways that you can get involved in the work that we're doing. You can follow us online, you can sign up petitions, you can become a member. Becoming a member is a really easy way to get involved. You stay up to date on all the work that we're doing, and you also, in some respects, give us standing to bring a lawsuit on your behalf, which is a really critical piece. So I encourage you to become a member. You can attend our events. Having the public involved and engaged in the work that we're doing in a hands-on way makes the issues that we're working on a lot more tangible and meaningful for the community. You can make a donation. You can sponsor an event. You can party with a purpose. We've got a lot of great options for you to help us sustain the work that we're doing through a financial contribution. You can buy some merchandise. Dana's got some in the back tonight. Again, we do everything we can to raise funds to keep this programming that we have sustainable and available and free to the public. You can tell your friends. This is one of the most easy things that you can do to educate other folks about the issues that we're working on at Waterkeeper and the issues that mean a lot to you. And finally, you can be a good steward, and a really great way to do that is to fill out your survey, and you can get a free reusable bag, right? So you can start bringing your reusable bags over to the grocery store. And of course, be a good steward to your environment in every way possible. Use, organic fertilizers and ensure that you are picking up your dog waste and all sorts of things to protect our waterways in our backyards. How do you find out how to be a good steward? You can check out our website. We've got a lot of tips online. Again, everything is available on our website. You can check it out. It's a really great resource, and we update it all the time with new information, new projects that we're working on, new events, and new activities. Together, let's keep Miami sparkling. Let's keep working on this together. I'm excited that you're all here in the room. That means that you're willing to help us make a change and protect our waterways for future generations. So thank you all for coming out. I'll hand it back over to Ramya, and we'll be around for questions in a minute.
Next, we have Derek speaking for D-Squared Engineering and also for the Village of Key Biscayne. His company consults for sustainability projects.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for coming out and participating this afternoon. As Romeo mentioned, I'm the founder of D-Squared Engineering. We've been dealing with sustainability for the past 9 years, and we've been dealing with the Village of Key Biscayne in particular since 2012. And this past October, we were awarded the contract to become the consultants for the village. Have some great information for you guys today, and again, available for questions later on. So our whole goal is to create champions for sustainable communities, and what that means is taking this all-encompassing approach. We don't just focus on one subject. We try and hit as many as possible, and you'll see that throughout the presentation. In particular, what was developed during the sustainability plan. I'm going to take you a little bit back. In 2012, we actually gave a presentation to the village in regards to some sustainable waste practices, and because of that conversation, then Mayor Frank Coughlin had the foresight to go ahead and set up what he called the Green Committee. And that Green Committee was charged with developing the sustainability plan for the Village of Key Biscayne. It was made up of 8 community members, a fantastic group of people. I was fortunate enough to be named the chair of that committee, and we worked over the course of about 1.5 years to draft a plan that was then presented to council in May of 2014. Now, this gives you a little bit of an oversight of the main 8 categories that were included. And again, this happened over months and months of discussion between the team members. We had meetings every 2 weeks, and these are the main 8 categories that after much discussion we decided we want to put together. This information is available on the D-Squared website. It's available on the Village's website, so if you want to go check out on the plan in more depth, you can. The interesting thing about each one of these categories is if you take a closer look, what we did when we developed the plan is we split it up between short, mid, and long-term goals. So obviously this document's a little older, but it's considered a living document. So those are constantly being updated in the work that we do, meetings we have with the manager, presentations we give to council, and some of the outreach programs that you'll see we're doing. So community outreach and communication for us is huge. There's a lot that the village is doing that sometimes people aren't aware of. And so one of the things we wanted to do is kind of spearhead this initiative where things that the Key Biscayne Community Foundation is doing, things that are happening within the businesses, things that the local government's doing. We wanted to create that transparency, and we do that through our reporting, which you can also get online. Waste reduction, reuse, and recycling. We actually did a pilot program back in 2011 with several restaurants in the Key, and within a 3-week period, we collected 4,000 pounds of kitchen waste, which was insane. And there are 40 restaurants in the Key, and that doesn't take into account the commercial properties, the schools, and the residences. So that's one of our big target issues. Green procurement is another one. Energy conservation and green building kind of go hand in hand, so I'll touch upon those in a little bit. Kelly, water quality and conservation, I'm sure that's in your wheelhouse also. Transportation and infrastructure is huge. I don't know if you guys know this, but since 1990, the population in Key Biscayne has grown 49%. 49%. Insane. And we're only about 1.7 square miles. So when you look at those figures, there's a lot going on that we need to be paying attention to. And of course, climate adaptation and resilience. So again, I mentioned one of the things we do is we submit these monthly reports to the manager with the projects that we're working on. We do a lot with analysis. We gather data, we take a look at it, and based on those numbers, what we do is we like to create solutions. What you see on the right-hand side is an example of a dashboard that we created for the village. This particular dashboard is being used to to monitor energy and water usage for the 3 municipal buildings. You have the fire department, you have the city hall, and you have the community center. Now, with this data, we're able to take that and present solutions such as solar, which is on the table right now, such as rainwater harvesting for the village green, which we proposed last year. So things like that we're starting to implement into our practices that are going to have a huge effect, not only on the carbon footprint, but also financial savings, which from an operational standpoint is fantastic. We also didn't want to make sure that we were just focusing on the government, because if you look at the 3 government buildings, they all have a very small footprint compared to the rest of the key. So we actually launched a program back in April of this year, which is to certify the businesses green. And this is a sample of the sticker that they get. That was a program that was done in collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce and the Village of Key Biscayne. To date, we have 3 businesses that have been certified. We have the Golden Hog, we have Poliga Medical Group, and Chase Medical Group. And we just had another 3 that completed their certification, which was the Ritz, Wells Fargo, and Secreto Gourmet. And I just had a meeting this morning with the property manager of 240 Crandon, and he's jumping on board to certify the entire building, which we're really excited about. Again, so we have those monthly reports. We've developed a sustainability portal to give you guys access to information so you know what's going on in terms of sustainability within the community. Anything that you see, we highly encourage you, or that you want to see, we highly encourage you to reach out to us and let us know. Because if there's a silence, then our efforts only go so far. So we're looking for feedback from the community. We want your input, what you're looking to see, what you think is missing. All that information we can then take and put back into our planning to make sure we have an effective solution. We're also launching a similar program with the schools for the certification, which we're very excited about. Had a meeting several weeks ago with the Coalition of Principals for Key Biscayne, and that's going to be rolling out this fall. So this is massive. This is one of my pet peeves. I've been in this area for the last 9 years, and some staggering stats. By 2023, landfill space in Miami-Dade County is virtually done. We're going to be starting to look for alternative situations where we're going to purchase additional property, or the waste is going to have to be shipped away. And when that happens, prices go up. And that's something we want to avoid. Statewide recycling goal of 75% by 2020. Miami-Dade County is currently at 33%. So within 2 years, we have a lot of ground to make up. And also, this was very interesting. According to a study done by the EPA, Miami-Dade County residents generate roughly twice as much waste per day in comparison to the rest of the country. And again, that's also indicative when I told you we did that pilot program with those restaurants. 4,000 pounds in just 3 weeks is insane. So one of the things that we're actually proposing right now, we're in discussion with Ritz and several other properties. We have sourced this mini waste-to-energy system. And this unit is about the size of a Mini Cooper. And it can process up to a ton of waste a day. And you stick it on your property, you put the waste in, and you get clean energy out. So you're reducing your carbon footprint in terms of transporting the waste. You're reducing your carbon footprint in the terms of taking away a dependency on a coal-based fuel source, and you're producing renewable energy which is directly injectable into the property, whether it's a school, a hospital, a hotel, a condo building, a municipal building such as this one. So we are very excited about this, and as I mentioned, we've already begun discussions with several properties here on the Key to potentially integrate this. Green procurement's huge. This was one of the things that the Green Committee back in 2013 was very concerned about, because during our analysis we found that the different departments within government all have their own purchasing department. They're all responsible for purchasing their own things. So one of the things we wanted to start focusing on is assisting them to kind of create this template where they can pick and choose and make sure they're kind of consolidating their efforts to be more I guess, financially responsible with the choices made and the products that they're doing. For example, you'll see the molded fiber. I'm sure you guys, if you go over to Golden Hog, they started to make a transition to these. So, working with not only government but also the businesses as part of the green certification program to make sure that they're integrating eco-friendly purchasing options. The village did a great job with this. A little snapshot there of the code enforcement vehicles that were purchased about a year and a half ago. We did an analysis because they were, at the time, using the old police vehicles, which were, I think, the Ford Police Interceptors. And they switched those out and they got these hybrids, which are fantastic. Also, sustainable water equipment. For those of you that aren't familiar with this technology, what you're looking at is a machine about this high. And I'm sure you guys have seen those massive 5-gallon water jugs that you get shipped in and you just turn them upside down. So this machine is essentially that without the water jug. And what it does is it extracts water from the air and it purifies it. That particular unit produces up to 8 gallons of water a day. And they are fantastic. So one of the things, again, we're talking with the municipal buildings, we're talking with the office buildings, is to put these in place and offer a solution where you can plug in your water bottle and you essentially eliminate the need for plastic bottles and also the transportation of water back and forth. Not only water jugs that are filled, but also the ones that are empty. So eliminate that. Energy and water conservation, big ticket item. We are in the process of working with the Green Building Code. Or actually, I should say the Building Code. I would love to hear it called the Green Building Code. But the Building Code to kind of modify some of the incentives and the best practices. So to include things like solar, to include things like rainwater harvesting, green roofs, things that would really have an impact, a positive impact to the community. This is just a snapshot of a proposal we submitted last December, and this is for a PV system to take advantage of every possible square inch of roof space for the community center, for City Hall, and for the fire department for solar. The project was a little over $1 million and resulted in a $70,000 savings per year. So it's a proposal that's out in front of the government right now. It's something that can be phased in. It doesn't have to be done all at once, but an example of one of the things that the government's looking at. This was great too. This was an initiative done by the IT department actually in City Hall, where they were taking old desktops and they were switching them out for higher efficiency models. And this came up in a conversation we had with them last year. Because of the changes they had made, they had reduced their energy consumption by 61%, which is fantastic. And a lot of the newer computers are significantly smaller, so they were actually able to free up more desk space within the offices so that the workspaces were more productive for the staff. In terms of water conservation, this was a proposal we made last fall while they were redoing the fields. We did a calculation and roughly 3.5 million gallons of water falls in the village green each year. If we can take advantage of some of that water, it would be huge. So there's a proposal in place for a rainwater harvesting system that can be pumped into the irrigation for the surrounding area that's not artificial turf. You have the trees, you have the vegetated beds, and also, if desired, you could pump that in and use it to flush the toilets, which are in the public restroom in the park. So transportation and infrastructure is massive. Two huge things you'll notice, Freebie and Line Bike, that have become a huge presence in the Key. I was fortunate enough to communicate with the people that represent these companies, and they gave some fantastic stats. So Line Bike was launched about a year and a half ago. Great thing about this program is there was no capital cost to the village. I was part of a committee that went through a selection of several different companies, and this one was great because not only was there no cost, but there were no infrastructure improvements required in order to launch the program. You know, other companies like City Bike, which is as great as they are, they require you to put a kiosk. This did not. So you guys have seen the bikes everywhere. So 43,000 trips, 14,000 users, and 33,000 pounds of carbon dioxide saved by using the bike as opposed to jumping in a car. And then Freebie also, 50,000 rides, 83,000 passengers, and a total of 118,000 miles logged, which is massive. And not too long ago, the Loop was also launched, and the numbers that we received were pretty impressive with the feedback from the Loop program, which is great. So last target, I'm going to talk about climate adaptation and resilience. In addition to the solar, one of the things that we're talking about, we also had some discussions with the fire chief a few months ago, talking about emergency response operations, what they do, what their protocol is in case of a hurricane or something of that nature. And the goal is to have them not skip a beat, where if power goes out, it doesn't matter. So one of the things that we're recommending, not only for emergency response, but also for cost savings, is battery backup. This is an example of a company that we deal with, and they help in several ways. If you pair this with solar, basically what you're doing is you're taking the solar and you're charging the battery. So in case you lose power, and let's say you have a generator like the fire department does, what happens if there's a problem with the bridge and you run out of fuel for the generator? You're stuck. So this offers a viable solution where you have the solar charging the batteries through the day, and then you have the batteries feeding whatever systems you need, your computer system, or any maybe an electric generator of that sort. So this is a fantastic technology. I do want to bring this to your attention because we recently made this connection to this technology, and I absolutely love it. We do live on Island Paradise, and one of the reasons we live here is because of the beach. I used to live in New Jersey, and the closest beach was 2 hours away. So here, having the beach right in my backyard, I will do anything and everything to protect it. So here, in 2017, Miami spent $11.5 million to protect 3,000 feet of beach. And then it was estimated that $3.7 million worth of that project was taken away by Irma. And that's just in Miami, that's not here in the Key. And for those of you that know, we had the beach renourishment project back in the fall, and about a month later, Irma came in and pretty much took all the sand that we had put in. So this technology that we have identified is fantastic. It's an organic component that is inserted into the sand, and it acts to retain the sand. So the picture you're looking at right now is a resort in the Caribbean. This is an artificial wall that was put in by the resort owners in an attempt to retain some of the sand. And what they did is they put this product in the sand, and 6 months later, this is the result. There was no sand pumped in, there was no dredging, there was no truckloads of cars coming in and dumping sand. This is 6 months of nature doing its work with use of this product. Now, these underwater, under sand, I should say, these elements right here are still present. They're just covered by the sand that was brought in naturally by the ocean. So this is another thing that we're actually having a meeting with the manager tomorrow about, which we're very excited. This is a great maintenance component for the beach here in the Key, so we're very excited about this. And that's it. Again, I also wanted to reiterate, if there's anything that you want to see, you think is missing, that you've heard about, and you say, hey, why isn't this happening here? You know, we deal a lot with the other municipalities, but to have the feedback from the community is invaluable. Nobody knows this community better than you. So any information that you can get to us or advocate about, and we'd be willing to help out, you know, please let us know. Thank you very much.
Next we have Tracy Ellis speaking for Biscayne Nature Center.
My name again is Tracy Ellis. I'm a village resident, and I am privileged to work at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Biscayne Nature Center, and where I handle public affairs and community engagement. I do want to note that the president of our board of trustees is here, Jackie Gross Kellogg, and I'm delighted that she's here along with all of you. So this is the beautiful Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Biscayne Nature Center, located at the north end of Crandon Park and Crandon Beach, looking towards Miami at the north end of Key Biscayne. I don't want to assume anything, but may I ask how many of you have been to the Nature Center? Oh, very nice. I see, active seniors on the Key, well represented here and otherwise, so I'm happy to hear that. That's lifeguard station number 1, I believe. So happy to hear that. Our mission is noted here, but I'm going to boil it down to some simpler language. We are a not-for-profit. Our focus is on environmental education and the encouragement of citizen participation in the protection of our natural environment. What I'll talk a little bit about is how we advance that mission. But first, a little history. The Biscayne Nature Center is the success story that it is, I think, largely because of the efforts of 2 feisty women. I would say a third too. But I'll talk about the first 2. And it's amazing what a person can do to, rally one's neighbors and friends to make things happen. And that first woman is Mabel Fentress Miller. How many of you knew Mabel? Okay, so before I knew, that Mabel was a school teacher here. And Mabel, who passed away earlier this year at the ripe old age of 90, began environmental education programs in Crandon Park I believe on the backside of a hot dog stand. And that's how the education programs there got started. Some years later, she enlisted the help of a friend and very well-known environmentalist. I love this picture of Marjorie, Ms. Stoneman Douglas, who was at the time very well known for her advocacy of the Everglades and other environmental efforts. But at the ripe old age of 95, she established the Biscayne Nature Center. So we're never too, I guess, young or too old to make a difference, as both these ladies prove. And I would say, this isn't in my presentation, but I work with a feisty woman, Theodora Long, and, and she's brought the Nature Center along beautifully since that time. So because of the efforts of these women and the many people who help them, we have this beautiful protected area of land of shoreline, dunes, seagrass beds, mangroves, coastal hammock, and an ancient fossilized reef that is Bear Cub Preserve. So that is what we consider our spectacular natural classroom, with which we protect and share with as many people as we can. And how do we do that? We hands-on outdoor field expedition is our bread and butter. We bring children, adults, private groups, but especially school children from Key Biscayne to all around Miami-Dade County throughout the school year to engage in these expeditions. The Seagrass Adventure is no doubt our most popular one. And that is where a naturalist guide, a marine biologist, like Danny Washington there, will take you, this is like walking out on the sandbar at low tide, out into the seagrass beds, which are essentially the ocean's nursery. Tracy Nolan will do that and get you all set up with your nets. You'll go in there and drag the nets through the seabeds. You get a lesson in how to do that without destroying the seagrass, and rather finding out what we can catch in those nets. Once we have, you can see there's another group in the foreground there, at the top of the screen. The naturalist guide will go through your catch and explain to you what the creatures are, what their habits are, their predators, their prey, and fascinating facts about them from, depending on the time of year, we catch a wide assortment of marine animals, and it's pretty fascinating. Actually, Hurricane Irma brought us some uncommon visitors, and we lost a few common visitors. For instance, we had a very uncommon common octopus that Natalie's group found not long ago. And we have a lot of pygmy octopus, or octopi, but not often common. So you never know what you'll catch if you drag a net through the waters. And I should add that at the end of this adventure and this lesson, we release everything back to the seabed. So this is totally a catch and release program. And usually at the end of the adventure, we have a lot of happy campers. And that's what we strive for. Now, as I said, we do this for school kids throughout the school year, up to 200 children a day, more likely between 100 and 150 from Miami-Dade County schools, private schools, parochial schools, etc. But we also have opportunities for the public to participate. And we have monthly a family seagrass adventure, or family and friends. And these are the remaining dates for 2018. We don't just have female naturalists, there's Trent doing a group there. And this is a great experience for the young and young at heart, visiting relatives, kids here over the holiday break, etc. Because it's all done during low tide, in the sandbar, easy accessibility. It's a really great time. We also have, as another popular expedition, is our coastal ecology walk. That's a walk down the hammock trails and along the beach where you get to learn a lot more about the plants that inhabit our preserve. Plants, we do come across some marine animals, lots of butterflies, might go down to the mangroves. And that's another hands-on expedition that we offer. We don't have a public series for that, but we always welcome private groups who want to get together and explore the hammock. These little darlings, I believe these are from Key Biscayne K through 8, if I'm not mistaken, but they really enjoyed their coastal ecology walk lately. These children are from Liberty City Elementary School, and it was a cold day in Miami. They had a great time exploring the hammock. Another way that we provide education and also get our citizens active in protecting the environment, we have restoration days. Many of these are beach cleanup days. These are held once a month, except during the height of the summer. This is actually a group of Mass Academy kids who came and did a cleanup with us recently. We also have plantings, so it's not always a beach cleanup. Sometimes there could be plantings in the preserve to add more native plants to the preserve or remove exotics. We have also worked on restoring our pond on property. This is a somewhat old picture, but we actually just did a big revamp or restoration of the pond to get it to the point where citizens can actually come and volunteer and make a difference. It had gotten way overgrown. So we've got some professional help, and now we can use your help. And we have restoration days for the rest of the year. In case you have some young folks or older folks who need community service hours, we do award them. And it's always a nice time. It's in the morning, and then you can come pack a lunch and enjoy an afternoon at the beach. We also do water quality monitoring. Now, this gentleman here, that's Philippe Cousteau. Who remembers Jacques Cousteau? Yes, right? Well, this is his grandson. And the great thing about having Philippe join us with the World Water Monitoring Challenge is he brings media with him. So it helps to amplify the message that clean water is important to all of us, and we can do a part in monitoring that and protecting it. And so Philippe was with us in the winter this past time. And we had, we had several groups of school kids there with us participating in that event. And yeah, everybody took it very seriously. I mean, we had all of our kits and logged the results, and it was a very successful day. But more importantly, day in and day out, month in, month out, we work with Key Biscayne Citizen Scientist Project to monitor the water on Condon Beach all the time, because it's not a one-day event. As much as we love the attention that brings, it's ongoing. So here are some of our more recent results. The kids and our naturalists, they're testing for oxygen, air temp, water temp, oxygen, pH, and what am I missing? And turbidity. Yeah, so we are actually need to file the rest of our results with Ramya shortly. But that's one of the ways that we do collaborate and work with the Citizen Science Project. These are the air and water temps. As you know, we had something of a challenging summer, and so we're going to be looking at those results and providing that to Ramya. I should also add, during the summer, we run a summer camp. There's 4 weeks of the year that it's primarily attended by children who pay to attend our marine science camp. But the last 4 weeks is primarily for scholarship students. This year came from Morningside Academy, which sort of borders Little Haiti. And we had a group of 65, 70 kids, plus some paying campers who came and had an exceptional camp experience despite some of the challenges Mother Nature provided. That's Philippe with some of the kids who were doing the testing before logging their results. So there are a number of ways that one can get involved with the Biscayne Nature Center and advancing our mission. And one is to visit us. I know some of you visit us pretty much on an annual basis, but you can come by any time for either a field trip or a self-guided tour of the preserve. Also, we have some amazing new exhibits that we will probably have a grand opening shortly so that you can see how much has been done by the feisty woman Theodora Long on the board in upgrading the Nature Center for the 21st century. You can become a member. It's a tax-deductible contribution. There are quite a number of member discounts and benefits, including advance notice of turtle release programs. We don't control those programs, but we know when they're happening, and we'll let you know first. And your tax-deductible contribution will help support environmental education programs for underserved children, including free programs, free field trips we offer to low-income schools during the year, and again, for children to come join us for summer camp. You could be a volunteer. We sign up for restoration days. We have a number of younger summer camp volunteer counselors who work with us during the summer. Or you can be creative. If you have a thought about what you'd like to do to make the Biscayne Nature Center better, just let us know. And then for kids only, we have our Earth Keepers Junior Naturalist Club. For students 5 to 17, they have a great time working to improve the environment and sharing their knowledge. And probably the most popular event they did this past year was a shark tagging trip with Rasmus, where they got out on the ocean water and found, I'm told, the holy trinity of sharks, and had a great time bringing them in, tagging them, letting them go so they could be available for further study. Now, whatever you decide to do with us, I think you'll visit us and leave us with a big smile on your face for the young and young at heart. And with that, I would just like to say a big thank you to all of you for your time.
Thank you, Tracy. Up next, we have Lou Dotson with Billbag State Park.
Good late afternoon to everybody. My name is Lou Dodson. I am the Assistant Park Manager at Billbags Cape Florida State Park. Very honored to be part of this august group here and speaking today about developing community involvement in our environmental issues of the day. As you well know, Cape Florida is the oldest historic structure in Miami-Dade County and is, of course, referred to by the locals as El Farito, the beloved little lighthouse. We have many current programs that we administer here at the park. Some of those are our lighthouse tours that occur Thursday through Monday at 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock. We have nature hikes that go in the cooler part of the year. We found that when it gets hot, nobody shows up, so we do those more in the winter months. We have an organized youth group camp where we have taken it off the market as a paid camping spot and changed it to where it is available to organize youth groups such as Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and church community groups in exchange for a service project performed for the park while they are camping. We also have our monthly beach cleanups. When I came to the park 2.5 years ago, there were no programs for cleaning the beach, and it was something that I had implemented at my last park and started here. We went from having 7 people show up to clean the beach to now we routinely have anywhere from 50 to 200 people show up once a month on the second Saturday of the month from 9 to 11 and remove hundreds of pounds from our beach and our picnic areas. One of the reasons we do this is because we are environmental advocates. The purpose and mission statement of the Florida Park Service is to provide resource-based recreational opportunities while preserving, protecting, and restoring natural and cultural resources. Cleaning up around the park is one of the most essential things that happens because we are also home to many endangered species, both animal and plant. One of the most important ones, of course, are sea turtles. We know that we have about, this year, almost 96 loggerhead sea turtle nests on our 1.2 miles of beach. And of course, we can tell what a plastic bag is, but a turtle cannot. So it's very important to clean up our messes and love your mother. We have many wonderful people who participate in our volunteer activities. Anybody recognize that rapscallion there? He is that Manny Rianda is one of the first people I met at one of our beach cleanups, and I have recruited him to be a member of our community support organization and a member of our board of directors. So he has become a very active member in taking care of the environment here in Key Biscayne and at Bill Baggs Cape Florida State Park. He's a real star. Not only do you find trash, sometimes you find treasures. And we try to make our cleanup programs be educational as well as just purely maintenance for the park. And these young ladies are demonstrating some of their other unusual finds as they come through the back dune areas of the park. It's like a little Buddha statue there and probably, I think, a raccoon skull. And we got all volunteers come in all sizes. They come out in all kinds of weather. You can see my folks over there displaying their trashy fashion bags. And we have organized groups, the Engineers Without Borders, and all kinds of school groups. So we combined education with service to make it something that is meaningful as well as helpful to the environment. So that brings me to a point. And that is that we can't do this without you. 61% of labor in all Florida state parks is provided by volunteers. So you show me a volunteer and I will show you countless lives touched. We have had a large volunteer program at one point within the park's history, starting with the restoration after Hurricane Andrew in 1992. That program slowly dwindled and had gotten to be fairly small. When I got there, we introduced some changes into our management of our volunteers, and we're starting to see a real pickup in, that's no pun, but a real pickup in the number of people who are taking care of our parks. We've installed 2 resident RV sites so that we can have volunteers live with us on site, and they have to give 20 hours of labor a week in order to live there for free. And we just got our numbers in from the District 5, of which we are, that's like the southeastern end of Florida, and we are number 3. And that is an incredible increase in volunteerism, and I'm very proud of that. A lot of that has to do with group volunteers. We have been supported wonderfully by Wells Fargo, by Norwegian Cruise Lines, by other organizations who've adopted our park. Aetna Insurance has come out. Royal Caribbean, there you go. Royal Caribbean actually put $2.5 million into helping to restore the park a couple of years ago and put 1,500 volunteers on the ground to help take care of those projects. So how can you get involved? That's what I want to see. I would love to see more individual service volunteers. And as you can see at the top, there is a website, floridastateparks.org. That is your central clearinghouse for everything Florida State Park. It has the park information. It has all of the sign-up applications for being a volunteer in any Florida State Park. And the ways we need help today, I would really like to have the lighthouse open for many more hours. So I could use some individual service volunteers who might be interested in learning some more about our Florida history. And we have a wonderfully beautiful Keeper's Cottage, which is an air-conditioned museum. And as you can see, Marilee here is in the new costumes that were just produced by the Dade Historic Society for us. So not that we make you wear them, but you can, if you like to dress up and dance around and talk about history, we can do that for you. So in addition, you can help with monthly beach cleanups. I need volunteers, not just to go out and pick up the trash, but to help me with the administrative side, because we weigh all the trash, we write down the statistics, and we turn that in to Romya, and also as bragging rights about how many volunteers and how much trash we picked up. We have special events. How many of you made it out for the Haunted Hike this year? Anybody? All right. I know Tracy did. So our we have what's called a citizen support organization. And they put on several special events in conjunction with Florida's Park Service. And one of the most popular ones this year has been our haunted hike. It is one of the major fundraisers for our CSO, and this year raised $18,000 for the park. Now you may be going, why does state agency need to do that? I'll get to it in a minute. The other idea is if you're affiliated with organizations, you can adopt an area in the park. Adopt a trail, adopt a picnic shelter, adopt a section of beach. And those are all ways that you can help us keep our park beautiful, open to the public, and functioning as a wonderful environmental area. Our next set of volunteer involvement has to do with citizen science. And Romeo is to blame. No, just kidding. But we did get involved with the Bay Drift project, which is, see those pink cards there? Laura Bracken she's with Rasmus, right? Yes. With Rasmus, is studying how currents flow through Biscayne Bay. So she enlisted Cape Florida as one of the spots for flinging a card for science, as I like to call it. So we get together on various occasions. I'll either gather people from the park visitors or local school groups. You can see passing bicyclists. I'll flag anybody down and get them involved. And at certain times and tides, we fling those cards into the bay from pier number 8. And later, we hope that those cards get found, and through the finders turning in that data, they let us know about how currents work and in the Biscayne Bay. I have a new project that I am proposing for this year, and that is sea turtle nest surveys and excavations. At my last park, I was very much involved with that, and I feel that it is something that lends itself greatly to citizen science. So I do have a sign-up sheet back there. If you are interested in participating in going out in the mornings and surveying for turtle nests, we can get you started on volunteer training. The volunteers you see here, Ted Rodriguez and Karen Martinez, are very dedicated volunteers who are excavating a hatched sea turtle nest. And that is another type of citizen science where 3 days after a nest hatches, we go in and dig that nest up, count how many eggs hatched, how many half hatched, if there were any predation marks such as beetles, larvae, or things like that. And all that data gets turned into the Florida Wildlife Commission and adds to the scientific knowledge about the preservation of this. They're not endangered anymore, they're threatened, but still treated as endangered species in this area. So if you're interested, let me know, because there are trainings and certifications you have to get to be a volunteer and to be included on our permit. The reason why we do what we do is that we have to let people learn. And volunteers are essential in that learning process because you augment what rangers can do. And this is my very favorite phrase, that in the end, we will conserve only what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we've been taught. And we hope to, by involving more volunteers in our park programs, that we can spread that education a little further. Our interpretive programs right now consist of nature walks, bird watching, and we've instituted touch tables. We have the sea turtle touch table, and we're also looking at possible supporting sea turtle nests by sponsoring them, which would raise money for the whole program. So at Saturdays at 10 a.m., when it cools off, probably about November, we'll start the nature walks over again. And Sunday afternoons, we'll have the touch tables at either Beach Access 6 or 7. And again, we would welcome volunteer help. We also, every year on New Year's Day, have First Day Hike. And if you're not aware of that, please join us. I know Terry has joined us for that. And you will walk with us. We usually do a beach and a lighthouse walk on New Year's Day. What a way to start the year. Be out there outside and enjoying nature. So as I spoke about the Citizen Support Organization, we have the Friends of Cape Florida. We're very honored to have Theodora Long as their president of our citizen support organization. And they are a 501c3 group who raises money for the park, and all that money stays within the park to support park programs. When you pay admission at the front gate, that money goes into a general fund that goes to Tallahassee and is redistributed through all the park service. Our budgets are always voted on by the legislature. We have no control over what we get. Bill Baggs is the third highest grossing park in the state of Florida, but that doesn't mean we get that money back. So we are very happy to have a citizen support organization who tirelessly does fundraising and projects to keep money there at the park and to support some incredible programs. One of the best things they did this year was that they were able to support the installation of cameras at the top of the Cape Florida Lighthouse so that folks who are unable to climb the 109 stairs to the top can now enjoy the same view as the folks at the top by just walking inside the lighthouse. We have two 55-inch screen TVs, and you can see north and south up the beach and down towards the keeper's cottage. So never doubt that a small group of thoughtful and committed citizens can change the world, because it's the only thing that ever has. And so by joining in as volunteers and as members of our community support organization, you can make a difference. I have membership information back at the back, and have also information on our volunteer program and also our Junior Ranger program for kids. It's all on the back table. So some of the things our CSO has done, which you may have participated in, we have our full moon parties back at the Lighthouse. And if you are a member of the Friends of Cape Florida, you get in free. Otherwise, we started charging to be able to raise money to do the programs in the park. Our haunted hike, there's some of our original really spooky participants, many of whom are members as well. We also have our Lighthouse Holiday Celebration, the first full moon in December, to kick off the holiday celebration on the Keys. No matter who you encounter on our beach or in our park, it is a good day to be in the park. It's peaceful and it's unusual. Whether it's sunrise, middle of the day, if it rains or if it shines, or at the setting of the sun, it's always a beautiful place to be. And remember, the world is changed by your example, not your opinion. Thank you.
Next we have Tory White from Rasmus.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Tory White. I am the Community Relations and Outreach Manager for the University of Miami's Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Science. And today I'm here to show some really cool things that we have going on at the Rosenstiel School, and I hope you guys enjoy. Our history. Let's just start off from the beginning. The Rosenstiel School is the only subtropical marine school in the continental United States. So that means we're kind of like one of a kind in our field. The UN Board of Trustees established the Marine Laboratory on February 1st, 1943. So you add 1943 to 2018, and we arrive at our 75th anniversary, which is really cool, celebrating this year. Coral biologist F.G. Walton Smith, which we also have a research vessel that is named after, that we conduct scientific research, which is really cool. I had the opportunity to actually go aboard the F.G. Walton Smith on a research cruise out to the Bahamas and up through the Bering Straits for some oceanographic and scientific research. We did some CTD cast, which is conductivity, temperature, and depth, where they check the water quality of different areas around the Caribbean. It became an Institute of Marine Science in 1961, and then it was renamed, it's the name that you guys know now, as the Dorothy and Lewis Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Science in 1969. We had our first female tenured full professor, Oceanographer Hardy B. Michelle in 1970 as well at the Rosenstiel School. Everybody knows anything about real estate, you know how that old adage goes, location, location, and location. We have an amazing spectrum of facilities that's here on the Key. We have NOLA's Atlantic Oceanographic Meteorological Laboratory. We have the Southeast Fisheries Science Center. We have Mass Academy. We have the Miami Aquarium, and then of course we have the Rosenstiel School. Over 1,000 marine and atmospheric scientists work on Virginia Key, believe it or not. That's a lot, okay? We also have at the Rosenstiel School, CMIS, the Providential Institute for Marine Atmospheric Studies, also works in tandem with us at the Rosenstiel School. RASMIS, which we call it for short, unites cutting-edge technology, first-class scientists to tackle global challenges, including weather, climate, sea level rise, hurricanes and marine conservation, oceans and human health, and geosciences. I think a couple of years back, we had a lot of publicity with climate science. We had actually Leonardo DiCaprio came out, and he worked with the scientists, and they showed him around our sustained wave tank that has the ability to replicate Category 5 hurricane force winds. At the Rosenstiel School, we have 97 faculty members from over 24 different countries, comprising 5 research and academic departments, which include atmospheric sciences, ocean sciences, marine geosciences, marine biology and ecology, and marine ecosystems and society. In terms of programmatic components of the school, we have our Master's and PhD program along with our Master of Professional Science degree. Since 1994, the Rosenstiel School has hosted Sea Secrets. It's a popular lecture series which is free to the public. This evening program begins with a reception and is followed by a lecture from world-renowned scientists, author filmmakers, and explorers. This is just to name a few of them that we had this past series. We had Brian Scurry from National Geographic, Gavin Smith from NASA, our very own Martin Grossell from the Rosenstiel School, Maureen Raymond from Columbia University, Susan Avery from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute, and James Ballard from Extreme. That said, I want to thank all you guys for having us out here today. I also want to say thank you to the Biscayne Community Foundation and APA for supporting and the sponsorship of the Sea Secrets series. Thank you very much.
So, I'm pretty certain I know pretty much everybody here, but just in case, my name is Ramya Sundaram. I'm the Citizen Science Coordinator for the Key Biscayne Citizen Science Project. We're funded by the Key Biscayne Community Foundation. We're actually just an extension of the foundation. As you've heard from a lot of our speakers today, we try to work with as many different organizations as possible. One of our main goals is networking, because we work best when we can work together. So our mission is to have citizen and professional scientists monitor, protect resources, and to share that information, share information on the most critical natural resources of Key Biscayne and Virginia Key. That is our overall mission, but predominantly what we do is environmental education. We want everybody on the Key and nearby to learn about the environment. We want them to know why it's important, what parts are critical, what animals are endangered, what kind of invasive species there are, anything that they may not know about. The more that people know about the environment, as Lou said earlier, the more we understand, the more we'll actually care about it. So we specifically, our aim is to educate the public and then also network with other organizations so that we can have events like this where we work together. We have a lot of partners that we work with. All of the organizations that are here today are listed. We also work with all of the schools on the Key and several other organizations. I won't go through the whole list. So here are some of the programs that we have. The Key Challenge, which is essentially like an extended science fair. It is a program that we start every fall with all of the schools on the Key, including Mass Academy. And we go throughout the school year where the students work on projects, and then at the end they turn them into me. We have Key Challenge judging, and then they get awards just like they would for a regular science fair. Each year we have a specific theme that they follow, and we change the projects up a little bit every year to keep it interesting. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while. Water testing has already been mentioned. We sponsored a huge number of water testing kits, which are at Biscayne Nature Center. They do monthly water testing for us. We are actually about to, this week or next week, I'm going to buy a lot more to give to Lou at the Bill Bags, so that she can also start the same kind of monthly water testing at the beach cleanups. We're also looking at other areas where water testing may be important. We got a proposal from Miami Waterkeeper about the water testing program that they want to start, and we do plan on being involved in that. Environmental workshops like this, where we have people come and they learn. Sometimes they're a little bit more interactive rather than just lectures, but a lot of times, they are sort of like this. We also do We Labs. That's another one that's with another organization we work with called Dream and Green. And that's more of a workshop where they teach you about how to save energy and water, and they give you a toolkit at the end that helps you do that. Our citizen science lectures, once the school year starts, every month, every third Thursday of the month, we have a citizen science lecture, which is basically any interesting scientific topic that I can find someone to come talk about, I will have them come talk about it. In particular, and I'm going to show you a picture later, there was one last year about plankton that sounds boring, but I thought it was really cool. We have a newsletter that we send out. It used to be quarterly, but now it's once a year we send it out. And it just covers basically everything that we've done for the year and everything that we're planning on doing for the rest of the year. We usually have an editorial that's written by myself or our lead scientist, Bob Molinari, and it's just full of information. Nature walks are actually the ones that we have at Bill Bags. We like to promote those. We think that it's really interesting, and we try to get people to go on those nature walks because they're really interesting. We have a butterfly garden that was created, I think, a year or two before I started working with the foundation. It's a great idea. Obviously, butterflies, native species, they're running out of habitat, and creating butterfly gardens, which anybody can even do in their own front yard or backyard. It's always a really good idea. I think our butterfly garden has been a little bit neglected, so I'm coming up with a program to have sort of a constant maintenance and have school kids involved in that so that they can get community service hours and things like that. And that way our garden is also maintained. We're also maybe hoping to create a second one. We're looking for locations right now. And youth fishing clinics. We haven't had one of these in a year or so, but we're planning on having more of them. And it's just to teach kids about safety and different fish species and just anything important when it comes to fishing and what the rules and regulations are. We usually have those at Bill Bags, and the park rangers help out with those. So the key challenge, each year that I've been here at least, we've had more and more involvement. Last year was the first time we broke 1,000 students that were participating. This past year, we had 1,200, and hopefully next year will be more. Every year we have about 400 finalists. That's just based on the number of projects that we can receive and the number of projects we have available. We added an at-home category, so rather than kids only participating through their classroom, it's specifically for Key residents or kids that go to school on the Key. So a lot of times you have kids that are residents but then go to school off the Key, and that was previously excluding them from participating. We now have an at-home category where kids can enter individually if they're a resident of the Key, so that way we can have more people participating. We just last year instituted a competitive science report for juniors and seniors. Inherently, since the conception of the Key Challenge, we never had any juniors or seniors participating. And now we offer a $200 reward for first place. Incentive always works. But it's also, it looks good when you're applying for college and you have a competitive science award on your resume, or you can talk about that to a recruiter that, it does help. The last 2 years, this past year and the year before, the theme that we followed for our Key Challenge was based on the EPA Environmental Education Grant that we got, which was basically shoreline conservation and water quality. So last year we specifically just focused on water habitats, water quality. 2 years ago. This past year, we did human impact, which is an extremely broad subject. And I was hoping to see some of the kids go into a lot of different areas with this. And we did get some very interesting results, actually. We did get about 900 photographs of trash on the beach. But that is that's a human impact. But right here, the picture on the left, on the right, is one of the entries that we got. And this one, I think, actually won first place for 4th and 5th grade category. It was a 5th grader. And her description that went along with it is that something to do with, our boat traffic has increased as the human population has increased. And so in order to protect manatees and other animals in the water, we put up these speed signs. But also the speed sign makes a nice little perch for the pelican. So that was her idea of human impact, which was really, actually a positive impact, and it was really nice. Plus, it was a really nice picture. What we do with with the majority of the entries that we get from the photo part of the contest is create photo books for sale. And so we have like 80, 90 pictures that all these kids have taken from all these different age groups, and we make those into books. They're really cute. These are some of our entries and our winners from this past year. We had the mayor come and visit us during the award ceremony, which was nice. And the kids get so excited about getting their awards, and it gives them even more of an incentive, because aside from the fact that they're learning about the environment, they're really excited to participate. This one, this picture I had to put in there just because it's amazing. It was a 3rd grader, and this was her picture to depict human impact. It kind of looks like a beer commercial, but it's also a really beautiful picture. So I wanted to make sure everyone got a chance to see it. So again, our EPA grant is what has been funding a lot of our programming over the last 2 years, and this program today is part of our EPA grant. So we've been doing this since 2016. We got $91,000 from the EPA. We're covering the rest of the costs. Again, Miami Waterkeeper, Dream and Green, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. Ask Club, we do have representatives from them in the audience today. All the schools, Miami Rowing Club, the Yacht Club, they do water testing for us. Friends of Cape Florida, of course, that's Bill Baggs, Biscayne Nature Center, and somehow Rasmus got left off of this, sorry about that. Again, we do workshops, outdoor activities, water testing, and we've hired some interns to help with a lot of the activities. This actually is from 2 years ago, the Key Challenge, but one of the things that we have been working on was sea level rise and sea level rise adaptation. We had a number of workshops last year to talk to the public about the problem and possible solutions for implementing it. This was during a king tide in 2016 when they took this picture. It's an impactful picture, so thought I'd include it. We also do reef restoration. It's one of the few kind of hands-on events that we have. Most of what we do, as I said, is education, so there's a lot of lectures and things like that. But through our other partners and through our networking, we can sponsor programs like this. And basically, so with Rescue a Reef, it's a program out of Erasmus, started by Diego Learman. They outplant corals, specifically staghorn corals, which are an endangered species. And what they're trying to do, there are small populations of staghorn corals along the east coast of Florida. It used to be a more continuous reef, and of course, humans came in and kind of messed it all up. And so what's happened is they've become very isolated populations. And so that reduces their genetic diversity. They're too far away from each other to mix. So what they're trying to do is sort of create a genetic bridge, and then also just increase the population of corals, because obviously they're a very important habitat for a lot of reef fish and lots of other animals. So we sponsor, this is going to be our 2nd year. We were supposed to do it last year, but I think Irma hit 1 week before our trip, and Rescue a Reef lost a huge percentage of their nursery, their coral nursery. So it's taken them a while to sort of recuperate from that, and we're hoping to have another trip this year with them. This is the plankton lecture that we had. I just have to put the pictures in there because it's really interesting. Plankton sounds boring, but it's actually really cool. And then another one of our lectures, these are just examples, plastic pollution. Tracy Nolan, who works for the Biscayne Nature Center, also works for an NGO that started out of Erasmus called Debris Free Oceans. And so she's come twice now and given lectures about plastic pollution and the different, and not just plastic, obviously that's a Corona bottle on the end, but just the different impacts that it has. That bottle was found on one of the local beaches, and there is a hermit crab inside of it that has been in there for a very long time. It's too big to get out, and so they broke that bottle and got it out. Somehow it was alive for quite a long time. The middle picture is little tiny pieces of plastic that have accumulated in mangrove roots. Mangroves are really good at slowing down water flow and causing sediment to settle. And so what happens is when you have things like plastic in the water, that settles. And so you'll find tons and tons of tiny little pieces of plastic in mangrove roots. And then this very first picture here, each one of those vials holds plastic that was found in the belly of a baby sea turtle, just to show they can't tell the difference between plastic and what their natural food is. And that is it for me. I kind of rushed through that to make sure we had some time for questions. Thank you all very much for coming. And remember, if you fill out your survey and take it in the back to give to Pete, both Dana and Pete have some giveaways for you. Thank you very much. Let me give you questions if anybody has questions for me or anyone else. Yes?
I believe when you were talking about the man-made sand, yes, you described about what that material is.
Yeah, sure. So essentially what they've done is they've come up with this organic component that's injected into the sand. And what it does is it increases the cohesive strength between the grains of sand. And the way that it was explained to me is that essentially when you have wave action, the wave action comes in and it kind of peels away the layers of sand, kind of like the layers of an onion. This is how it was described to me. With this process, what you do is you enforce that bond so that when the tide comes in or when the wave comes in, it's actually able to drop down beneath the sand and retreat underneath. So rather than taking out the sand as the wave comes in, you leave a little more time for the sand to gather. And over the course of time, as you saw in that picture, that type of action where the water's coming in and dropping down underneath a few feet and then going back out allows the sand, the tide as it comes in and the waves as it come in to actually build up the beach naturally again.
Question about that. How
Sure,
does
sure.
that affect the seaweed problem we have here? Because the seaweed is a major problem certain times of year and always has been. So how does that interfere with that project? Because the seaweed basically they bury it. So would that interfere with what this is trying to do to the beach?
I don't think so, no.
The seaweed is generally a naturally occurring phenomenon when you have like the tons of seaweed washed up on the beach.
So this wouldn't interfere with building the beach up, it wouldn't want to.
No.
It'll probably still get buried, just slower.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to say that I thought all of you did a great job today in your presentation, and it really all fits together very, very nicely. This big picture is on our wonderful island. And I was only going to ask you, Kelly, if is there anyone around who can explain to us what this red tide is that we're all hearing about?
Yeah, it's a great question. Somebody asked this earlier. What's this algae bloom that's going to get people elected or not? And I said, that's a really great way to put it. So what's happening right now is that we have a naturally occurring red tide that formulates offshore. It's a type of naturally occurring algae. And, you know, with the right conditions, it creates a bloom. And generally those conditions are warm temperatures and sunlight, right? Because algae is a plant, essentially. It photosynthesizes. So we have a naturally occurring bloom. These blooms have been going on since colonization, really, if not before then. And what happened in this particular instance is that we've sort of had a perfect storm on the West Coast. So we also had concurrently some releases of nutrient-laden water from Lake Okeechobee. And those releases are releases that have been happening for many, many decades now in the state of Florida after the Herbert Hoover Dike was built around Lake Okeechobee, because there's natural flooding that occurs every summer in that region, and that water has to go somewhere. So we channelize the flow out to the east and west through the rivers, and at some point during the rainy season, we've got to dump it out instead of flooding it south, which was the natural flow down to the Everglades. So what happened was we had a release from Lake Okeechobee that happened to coincide with a red tide bloom that was developing off the coast. And because of the really warm conditions of the water, the cyano bloom, the algae bloom from the lake, coincided with the red tide bloom, and it created this really awful algae that we are seeing all over the news. So the red tide in and of itself is very detrimental to fish. It suffocates them. We see a lot of fish kills. We see impacts to marine mammals, to sea turtles, and all sorts of different species. But it's sort of, as I mentioned, the perfect storm of these two conditions colliding is why we're seeing it really in the news, because it's exacerbating what would be an otherwise sort of naturally occurring condition. And of course, if you couple those impacts with the fact that we have rising temperatures, we have hotter summers, more humid summers due to climate change and global warming, you start to see that these red tides coupled with the algae blooms become a lot more serious. And then you throw on top of it that folks from the agricultural industry are in some cases exempt from the Clean Water Act, and there's some loopholes in this nutrient-laden water issue, as well as we're not sending the water south like we historically used to. We're concentrating those discharges in certain areas on the coast. So that's why in this instance, Fort Myers has been particularly hard hit. So long and short of it.
Terrific.
I have a question about that waste thing that you were talking about, that you put in waste and creates energy.
Yes.
How much are one of those cost? And would it apply, could several people do it if it's conference doing it?
Yeah, so the question was what's the cost of the unit, and then what the benefit would be to the individual people who are leasing within the property, for example, restaurants. The original estimate that we received is $375,000. We have begun some conversations with banks to offer financing, so it's not an out-of-pocket cost. And then the other thing you can take into account is that you're going to be essentially eliminating your waste hauling contract. So one of the figures that we were provided, for example, was I think it was an 8-year term. Not sure about the percentage yet. We're still waiting on confirmation. But it was roughly, I want to say $4,000 a month for the payment. And the one comparison that we did with data that we received from one of the condos, they were spending $1,800 a month in solid waste removal and another $380 for recycling, so which is around $2,200 a month. So if you take into account the savings from the waste hauling contract, you're actually paying around $1,800 to $2,000 in order to finance the equipment. And that's not taking into account the savings from the renewable energy component. So it's a fantastic opportunity, absolutely.
Can we make everybody do that? Can we pass it on to everybody?
That's why I was saying, get out there and advocate for it, talk to your council members. I mean, it's definitely something we're pushing for. Renewable energy is part of the sustainability plan, so this is definitely along those lines of achieving those goals, so absolutely.
What type of emissions does that particular product create?
They are very minimal, and the unit has actually passed EPA standards. They have a built-in scrubber, and the emissions are very safe. It can even be installed indoors to the extent that it's non-toxic to anybody that's indoors. So it meets all the requirements.
And is FPL going to let you sell power back to the grid?
We wouldn't be selling back to the grid. Essentially what this unit does is it takes the energy that it produces and it actually heats water. And it heats water.
Heats water.
Correct. So that water is then pumped back into the building, which is great because a lot of the issues with renewable energy projects is coming up against those obstacles with FPL. So this kind of bypasses it in the sense that you're still creating renewable energy, but in a form that's very usable and very workaroundable, given the landscape. And then again, this is great for condo buildings and hotels because you have those huge hot water costs for your laundry, for dishwashing, for bathing. So it can offset a huge potential of your operating costs.
That's great.
Yep.
Regards to the apparatus that converts water out of the air. First, how much is that? And you like that cost? Cost or something like that?
Yeah, so if you recall, on the slide that I had for the green purchasing, where there were 3 elements on there, one of them was the atmospheric water generators, and that particular unit is $700, so which is very cost effective. It produces 8 gallons of water a day, and it's built in with a 7-stage filtration process, so you can put your glass to it and drink it no problem. They also make industrial size units that produce up to 2,000 gallons of water a day. So, maybe an institution like Rasmus, if they have issues with water, power goes out, you have that kick on, and you're generating water for use throughout until the power comes back on type deal.
Awesome. So I would put to that is that something that's applicable in regions like Los Angeles, California, when they have smog in the atmosphere? Can this still be applied in places like that?
Absolutely. The only thing that really changes is the amount of water that's capable of being generated, because that's obviously indicative of the humidity that's in the air. So we have a very high humidity level here, so the production capacities are much bigger. So again, depending on the weather conditions in the given area where you install it, but pretty normalized for the production capabilities.
And where do we have these in the village?
We don't, we're working on getting it. We're trying. We're trying.
I wanted, everybody have one. The neighbors, well, anyway, I wanted to see, who's already doing it. Okay.
This question is really for Lou or Kelly. Regarding the app that we have that I was introduced to from this lecture, or the lecture before, this swim guide. And I'm a little confused about the color coding. Because there's a bright green, and there's a pale green, there's a yellow, and a gray. And there's no explanation about which is which. Sure. Some days it's bright green. And some days it's a pale green like that. And the other question regarding this also is that Crandon North and South will often be contaminated. And it'll show no swimming.
Right.
And Florida will not be contaminated.
Right.
Bill Bags. And it seems like as we walk along, the same ocean is rolling along.
Right.
So it's a little hard to believe, it's hard to really totally trust this. And I know Dade County or the state is testing water every Monday, reporting Tuesday, and if it's still contaminated, they test again. But I guess it's the color coding question and then the distance between Crandon and Cape Florida.
Right, and I think that's a great question. So my understanding with the color coding is that if it's green, that means the last time it was sampled, it is safe to swim. So a way to discern when that was is you can click on it and you can see when the last sample was taken. So I'm actually, on my phone it doesn't show up as a light green, it shows up as green, yellow, or red. So maybe you have an updated version, I don't know. But my guess would be is that maybe they're fading the green as it gets farther from the sampling date, because the state of Florida only does this every so often. And with respect to your distance question, it might actually be a better question for the folks at Carth and the University of Miami who are studying the superficial currents in the bay and the ocean. But my understanding is that those samples are representative of the beaches that they're pulled at. So whether or not the water at Crandon South or Crandon North is interacting with that at Cape Florida, I don't study water currents, so I don't really know what the answer is, but they use the exact same sampling methods, the county and the state do, and they sample in exactly the same way. So if it's being sampled at Bill Bags and it's completely fine, then I think you have to give them the benefit of the doubt, and maybe Lou can answer that a little bit more closely.
I think I can. If you look at the location of where we do the sampling, which is on our swimming beach, there is much more, pardon the phrase, water flushing that occurs because we're at the tip end of the island. If you have ever stood at Cape Florida and looked out at the water, you can see the churning and the stirring and the movement of all of the different currents meeting there, which is part of why it's Cape Florida and why the lighthouse is there. So what the difference is, without being a tide expert or current expert, is that the further towards the mainland you go, the less water turnover you get. Whereas when you are there at our beach, you've got, we have a very strong, what's called a littoral current, Littoral, which that means shoreline in Latin. So we have a strong pulling littoral current that flushes the water out very quickly, and we have fairly sizable tide changes there that I think result in good water quality. It is very, very seldom in a year that we score anything below a good. And in the 2 years that I have worked there at the park, we have not had any score below good. And that is with FloridaHealthyBeaches.gov, which is the precursor program that Kelly mentioned before. I've not used this app, so I don't know. They're not sampling the same areas, right, that Healthy Beaches
Yes,
samples?
we input the Florida Healthy Beaches data into the app.
Oh, you do, okay. So it does reflect the scores that we get. And you're correct, it gets done once a week. But that would be the underlying reason why beaches further in have a different score than we do.
And if you don't mind my adding, that it was, I'm told it was quite unusual for North Brandon Beach to be closed for the period of time it was this summer. And what we did is we were in the middle of summer camp, and so we sent our campers down to our sister park at Bell Bags, because right there, that swimming beach by the lighthouse, it flushes well. Pardon the phrase?
Yeah, it's
That's my-
unfortunate.
Right, that's our
It's
two
true.
cents, that was our experience.
Any other questions?
If anybody is interested in a Miami Waterkeepers t-shirt, come see Dana here in the back and let her know your size. She can give you one. Thank you all so much for coming, and thank you to all the speakers.